entirely of secondhand fabrics, and part of pair 2 is on the floor, mainly comprised of wood, but a lot of different materials. And the way I thought of it initially, because I made it in 2014, was that the piece on the wall, if it were to fall down, what kind of imprint would it make? So in that a piece on the ground isn't necessarily a reflection or shadow, that it isn't an actual part of the piece, but it's more of, in many sense, like durational too. So like if one part falls and start to change and disintegrate, what kind of imprint would it make? More and more I think about that, I also think about how these two are meant to be together. They're almost like a diptych, but it's one work. They're connected, but they also keep their kind of distinct individuality. And one of the fun things that I'm also thinking about is this idea of like almost like imprint, but like underneath the carpet too. Like when it falls down and picks up everything that's on the floor, like what it looked like and how it would change. And thinking also about how this was a starting point, and this is what happens afterwards. So there's like a time passing in between. Pair 1 is secondhand fabrics, meaning those are fabrics that I got from thrift stores, fabrics that I have been given to me by my friends, or clothing that I no longer wear. So there's this idea of using materials that once served a different type of function or purpose, so like being clothed or as part of a curtain, but now they're all coming from different functions to come together to become a piece of work. And also for part of pair 2 that's on the ground, it's similar in that a lot of the wood pieces are pieces from MassArt, so MassArt bush jobs, things that I've collected, and I did supplement with some of the newer wood pieces, but also thinking about materials that it's a mixture of things that I've found and also things that are given to me, but also materials that are very easily accessible, meaning I've used some of the plastic C link chains here, and that's very accessible in terms of in craft stores, and visually too, because it's used a lot in elementary schools when they learn how to count. It's also used in when the people who own birds or parrots use to decorate their cages. So there's serving multi-functions, but again, this idea of bringing materials that serve a different function, but now they're part of the work. When I was working in my studio and laying out things, it looks different from what it is here right now, in that some of the arrangements stay the same, but just because of being in the space, being in the wooden floor right next to the wall piece, it feels different and therefore looks different. My work is not practical when I make it, because I'm not thinking about, okay, what would make the most sense or how it would like serve specific function. But then I think afterwards, how I'm transporting and installing, there's that element of practicality of how could I be mobile? As a woman of color, right, as an Asian woman making art, there's always this desire for people to categorize. Okay, so you're making this work with fabrics, so is it about your trauma? Or because you're a woman, does it connect to this idea of like domestic life or women's work? And while those conversations do come up, the core of it is that I know it's kind of there, but that is not the main thing. And this idea of, but I don't want to claim the space that it's just about domesticity or about my trauma, because ultimately it is not. And this idea also of like who gets to make abstract work. And it then be called, oh, this person's doing an abstract work. And they don't get the questions of like, well, but what does it mean? And that tends to be, white cisgender male who tend to be able to escape this kind of sometimes categorization. The art world seems to allow those people to make abstract work and accept it as just abstract.